Hi, it's Tuesday, the 29th of October, and I guess it's about time we had a look at the new moon coming up, the one in Scorpio. So the first thing I'm going to do is do a share, and let's do the animated page first. There we go. Right. Okay. I guess there'll be a lot of buzz around the internet on this one because it presents us with a scenario that is quite unusual, really. So, let's just run through where all the planets are for the time that the moon is in the same part of the sky as the sun. So obviously this wheel is 360 degrees, and on the 1st of November at 12:47, and this is in the UK, Colville is near where I live, then we will have the sun at 9 degrees and 35 minutes of arc, and we'll have the moon at 9 degrees and 35 minutes of arc. Okay, we get one of these every single year around this time. So that's the first thing to say. This is not unusual. Just one a year, but it's not unusual. What we need to do, however, is look at what else is happening here. First of all, we've got Mercury still in Scorpio at that point. Okay, right. Oh, well, that's a bit of Scorpio then, isn't it? Now, this is actually what I was talking about last weekend when I was talking about if we want to understand or get into or witness or experience the Mars-Pluto energy, we have to do it before it goes exact, because it's too dense, too deep, too dark to get your mind to it. When we get up close to it, we have to step back. It's a lot of power, and thankfully, we don't have to experience this kind of power with our tender little bodies and our little minds and our little spirits and soul. That's okay. We're intended for other things. Okay. So when it gets this exact, and I mean here the Mars opposing Pluto here, then what happens then, if you add in the moon Pluto, sorry, the sun moon in Scorpio. I'm doing it again. I'm going to explain something to you in a minute and you'll laugh. Right. So if we add in the new moon in Scorpio, both at 9 degrees, and then we look at the fact that Mars is opposing Pluto, and so this introduces more of the Plutonic Scorpionic energy into the frame. And then we look at the fact that Mercury, so the sun's henchman, really, the closest thing to the sun, the thing that we learn to do just after we found out we've got a body is communicate. we make noises, and we understand those noises have meaning. We can hear other people's noises. So Mercury also in Scorpio. Okay, this is starting to add up a bit now, isn't it? So that all adds up to a considerable amount of Scorpio, right? I'm just going to stop sharing now and tell you a story. So it was many years ago when I was doing a series of YouTube videos on the zodiac signs. Oh, I'd have to go back 20 years. They're still on, actually, still on my YouTube channel, but don't look at my teeth. I've had my teeth done since then. But anyway, so I got on fine with them. I look about 14. and they've had, tens of thousands of views because they've been on there a long time. Anyway, when it came to doing all the zodiac signs, I always used to record them on the new moon in that zodiac sign. And I found it so easy because with astrology, you have to get into the energy to be able to read it, to be able to vocalize it, to articulate it. You have to get into it. And to do that, you have to use a process that can only be found in fire, the element of fire. And so I don't know, it's mystical. I can only tell you this is how it works. After all this time, I know how it works. Okay, so you get into the energy, and if we're already in the energy because the sun and moon are there, then it's so much easier to do. Okay, you know, of course, because you don't have to stretch far. You don't have to put yourself out there and into that zodiac sign. That zodiac sign is infiltrating you, me, everybody. So it made it much easier. Well, except when it came to the Scorpio zodiac sign. And if you've got time after this, do go back to that video, right? What I had to do, I couldn't do it. I tried to record that video over and over again, and I just couldn't, because every time I tried to do it with the Scorpio energy so extremely intense, I couldn't speak. My words wouldn't come out. I couldn't articulate. I couldn't read. Whatever that I use that makes me a reasonable astrologer was unavailable to me. And that was really weird. So in the end, I got on a plane and I went to, I think it was called, no, it was Crete. And I went to a cave in Crete, the cave of Zeus. And down there, and honestly, it was spooky. There was screechy noises and all kinds of things. And at one point in the video, something really spooky happens. There is this really weird sound. I'm so much concentrating on the astrology, I didn't even notice this. And then somebody else commented, "Did you hear that something noise? It's such and such." Anyway, I went into this cave and actually recorded this flipping video. Thank goodness for that. And it was, it was a while after the sun had passed through Scorpio. But anyway, it got done. And I've never forgotten that, the fact that when it comes to a really intense scorpionic time, and if you throw in the ruler, Pluto, as well, then it becomes a time when I don't think articulation and talking are actually going to achieve what you would achieve if you've got some air about. Obviously, air is all about communication. And I think what that's saying is it's the dark night of the soul, really. Now, when we use the word dark, right, I really want to get over this dark associated with spooky things, and I've just spoken about spooky things, but it was a cave with bats in it after all. Not, and I'm frightened of bats, but the spiders, oh. Anyway, so dark things. When I say dark, I mean dark as in invisible. So dark as in dark matter, dark energy. Dark as in Pleiades. Do you see it started already? Dark as in Pluto and Hades. I said Pleiades, Pluto and Hades. Oh well. So I'm going to give you a prediction for this weekend, right? And it's not going to be what everybody else is saying. I don't know what they're saying because I never listen to anybody else's videos, but that's in case I nick their stuff and plagiarize it. I think the energy is too intense. I think it becomes a blank canvas. I think the weekend becomes a blackboard with nothing written on it. And I think that it will feel uncomfortable, as if we've been put into a sarcophagus, right, in an Egyptian pyramid and the lid put down, or in one of those water tanks where they put people to cut them off from all outside stimulation. I think it's going to be a bit like that, really. And so I think it's time for, I think it's a duvet day. And I think it's like get your chocolates and just sort of like comfort yourself. But I'll tell you what it is definitely a weekend for the soul, for certain. Now, I'm just going to share something else with you before I just carry on about that, because these my astrology reading cards are receiving quite, well, they're getting approval from people in the comments. So what I'm doing then is I'm just bringing them in more. So here we have the Scorpio card. Gosh, I remember making this card. It's funny when I see them now. It's so long ago, 2011. Oh gosh, 13 years. Anyway, so what we were doing at this point, I was trying to make sure that each card was coloured in the way of its element. So here we have the water card of Scorpio, and you can't see it, but in the background there is an underwater scene, so you can see some of the sort of coral here. Richard introduced this actually, and I think he was so right to do it. It's a spider. It's the back of a spider, and I think that does create something quite special in terms of it's unknown. And then we have a python or some kind of snake. It probably isn't a python, but there's its head and its body goes around the back and it's all curling around here. And there's something else sort of spidery, which puts in, I don't know. And then I love this girl's eyes. So here we have supposedly the feminine. And I love the treatment of her eyes. So she's got that bright spark in her eyes there. Okay, now, one of the things that was essential to get into this was curves. So the feminine works in curves. Feminine energy is all about curving curves. Masculine energy is all about straight lines. Okay, so, and then it had to contain brooding. And it had to be eyes peeking out from under a mysterious sort of cover. It had to explain something that happens underneath the surface of our existence, something that goes on in deep caverns. I think there. I was just trying to remember the name of the Phantom of the Opera. So the Phantom of the Opera, when he takes her down into the lair underneath the opera house. Okay, so now I think that it's all about understanding that the soul is not normally heard. I think we'll start there. I've said this before, but there's people joining every day, so let's do it again. And I forget things. Well, I certainly do. And do you forget things? Well, we all do. Okay, so the soul doesn't get to talk to us, our consciousness, very much. And that's because our consciousness is always taken up by the chatter of the mind and the activity of the fire. And so these two tend to run us. It's masculine energy, and so it helps us get up in the morning and target and go off and get things done. We'll go goal orientated with masculine energy. And so the soul never really gets heard. It is really just a recording mechanism. And it's recording all of your experiences and your feelings, most especially, and things to do with the matriarchal line, things to do with inheritance, inherited traits, things that we'll need, that we'll need. I say in an afterlife. I won't go into what I think the afterlife is, but it's more complicated than just you with your soul and your spirit and your mind and your, well, never mind the body, soul, spirit, and mind. I don't think all of those survive. I think it's something to do with the soul, a bit of the soul anyway. Anyway, so I think what we need to understand here is that this soul doesn't often get to talk to us. When we get these times where the sun and moon are together in Scorpio, and we've got Mars and Pluto and various other things going on, all interacting in a Scorpionic way, then I think what we need to understand is that it is the time for the dark of the soul. And I mean the invisible of the soul. I mean the quantum physics of the soul. I mean the stuff that is not normally visible, the incorporeal, as it's called. And so this is where the word dark comes from. It's not really about black. So my black's got some white on it. Anyway, so I think that it's about giving yourself time off in order that you can capture or talk to the soul. Now, when I say this, don't think it's going to be a very pleasant experience, because it's not actually. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel natural. Um, it's something that we kind of want to back away from mentally. But if you are a spiritual quester, a spiritual explorer, then the time for entering into the soul world and allowing the depth and the darkness and the quietness and the inactivity to slowly enclose you and surround you and work with you, you can't get a better time. You just can't. It's absolutely the best time of all, because there is very little in the sky that can shut down the water, the Scorpio at the moment. And there's plenty that Scorpio can shut down itself. It's one of those times. And so if you want one of those times, then if I were you, I should relish it, because it does look kind of amazing, really. Okay, now I'm just going to come back to you, because I was just looking at the chart there to see if there's anything else I should pick up. I don't think so. I hope that was useful, and it was great to see you again. And we will be talking tomorrow anyway. And all I've got to do now is find how to stop the recording. Phew, there we go. Okay, I think I got through that okay. Somebody let me know. I have such a problem with Scorpio energy. I have an exact moon Pluto, so you've only got to throw in a bit more Scorpio. I'm already 500 meters under the water, so if you throw in some more, I'm 1,000 meters down at that point. Then my mind isn't talking to my brain, isn't talking to my tongue, isn't talking to my conscience. Nothing's talking to, so stray words come out. Okay, that's very strange, but there we go. Thank you very much. I will go now. Bye.